What up, Dokkanners? It is finally time to review my hidden potential builds for all of the characters in part 2 of the global Dokkan celebration. I did this in part 1. That video I will link in the description down below. We covered these 11 characters stemming from the Zamasu Goku all the way to the Goku Rose Super EZA. I did not include the Fusion Zamasu in that video because this was dropped before that EZA was announced. So I will include this in this batch of 16. So it's actually 17 characters that we'll be reviewing here. The purpose of this video is to show you the hidden potential builds without all of the fluff that comes from the showcases. Maybe you didn't catch all the showcases. I did consolidate, multiple GT heroes into one video. I did consolidate multiple GT bosses into one video. So maybe you missed it. Maybe you didn't watch those videos. So that's why I'm going to be going through this. I'm going to put time codes for all of them so you guys can jump around if you want. I also have these builds in my Discord server. I post frequently my hidden potential builds for new characters that come out. So if you guys want to check those out, you guys can access the Discord server. Link is in the description down below. There is a section called Toon's Hidden Potential Builds, and that's where you can see all of them. If you need a character that I have not yet posted, you can request it in the Ask Toon section. So that being said, let's jump in. And before we jump in, I will also say I'm not going to be reading through every single passive. That's going to take forever. I am going to be going just over the basics, and I'm going to be basically covering the right side of the screen with my hidden potential build. So you're not going to be seeing a full breakdown of the units here. And also just know I am a big fan of dodge. My philosophy is very simple. When it comes to reading a unit's passive, in general terms, if a unit has one of the 3 hidden potential dimensions covered, then the build would be some sort of combination of the remaining 2. That's effectively how I approach hidden potential building. I find that it is better to cover the 2 things that the unit doesn't necessarily take care of. If a unit covers all 3, then it just depends on the era that the unit is releasing in. Because I am factoring in the fact that we have now reached a point in Dokkan's evolution where the challenge events not only hit hard, but they do other things. They AoE, they seal first turn, they secure the slot 1, they can stun you. All of those different things can cause a cascade of issues if your units either are hit or are affected by that in some way. So because of that, I am a big proponent of dodge. So I'm just letting you know right now there's going to be a lot of dodge in here. But hey, if you disagree, that is totally fine. These are my builds and what I think are the best ways to get the most out of the character. So starting with the Fusion Zamasu. This unit is a combo unit in the slot 2. This unit can build up crazy stats with multiple supers. You've also got guaranteed critical. You've got pseudo critical at the 18 key. You've got guaranteed critical at the 24 key. And with enough attacks launched or received, you are building up damage reduction and defense. And so this unit is the optimal attack dog in the slot 2. However, there are situations where AoEs could occur. This unit could get locked in a certain slot, so maybe they get hit before they can launch those attacks, and that can pose a problem because this is one of those units that requires actual movement before they can be deemed a good offensive or defensive unit. So because of all of that, I think that with critical taken care of, it very easily puts the burden on dodge and additional. Any combination of the 2 will do. This unit does have EX orbs. I did not give all of his specific EX orbs to him because I just personally don't like some of them, but I feel like with the stat boosting equips and dodge and additional, you're covered. I gave more dodge here because for those of you who don't know, dodge counts as 1. So when you have a 20 dodge, you have a 20% chance to dodge. If you have a 15 additional, you actually have a 30% chance to launch an additional attack, and that attack in turn then has a 50% chance of either being an additional or a super. So because you're seeing more dodge here in just terms of the number, it's just because it counts for less. And I am of the mindset that the more dodge you give, the more legitimate chance you could rely on it. Some people like to build their characters with the 3 dodge, which is a totally fine mindset. I personally just don't subscribe to that because praying for a Hail Mary is just not realistic. Praying for a 20 dodge, while it is still not reliable, it is far more consistent. So I would much rather do that. And in the state of the game right now, I think more dodge is that much more effective. So this is my build, additionals and dodge. Coming up next, we've got the AGL Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. This unit has a high chance to crit in general, gets a guaranteed crit after receiving 7 more attacks in battle, and is an offensive juggernaut, one of the best units in the game. How do you build the unit? Well, since critical is taken care of, that pretty much answers it right there. It would be any combination of additionals and dodge. The only question is based on personal preference. How much do you value the dodge aspect? Because the more dodge that you have, the more likely that this part of the passive will take longer to achieve. This part of the passive requires 7 hits actually being landed on the Gogeta to get the key +4 and the critical. Now, for me personally, while offense is good, defense is a more important thing with how the events have been evolving these days. And with this unit only stacking attack through the super attacks, you are not any better off before your super than you are after defensively. So that being said, I think that an ample amount of dodge would actually be a good thing, because while this unit can hit very hard and do world-breaking damage, this unit is still susceptible to some pretty nasty damage in certain situations. Not every situation, certain situations. And I think that those certain situations are enough. So when you see my 20-15 split here, I am obviously much more fixated on the additionals, but with 15 dodge, I am giving myself a 15% chance to dodge any specific attack that could be otherwise cataclysmic. And then here 20, we've got a 40% chance for an additional. I think that this is a pretty nice distribution for offense versus defense. It acknowledges that there is a threat that could potentially happen with this Gogeta, but it's not overshadowing the main bulk of the unit's design, which is combo, combo, combo. If I could, I would do 20-20. I like seeing symmetrical, even numbers, but I think 20-15 is a fine split. Also, this unit does have some nice EX orbs. I think all of the characters that we're going to see, all of the premier characters we're going to see in this video, all have their EX equips at this point. So this one actually is a pretty nice set. You've got some nice stat boosting ones while also giving additional. So it really just allows you to embrace the nature of the character. Additionals and dodge, more so additional, depending on who you are. Up next, we've got STR Omega Shenron. This guy doesn't have as great of a defensive presence as I would like. So dodge, I think, is very important. Critical already being in the passive, I was initially hesitant to not give him any critical, which is why I gave him 6 critical here from his EX equip. But because from showcases and from my overall experience with the character, considering I'm running this guy on teams with high synergy, I found myself very easily able to launch 24 key supers every single time. I never once had any sort of key issues. So because of that, I don't find critical important at all. So the only reason why I have critical is because of the EX orb that he's got here. But I think additionals and dodge, any combination would be fine. Probably more dodge would be better, because GT bosses at this point, we don't have too many slot 1 units. Actually, I mean, the TEQ Syn Shenron, we'll get to him later on. The TEQ Syn Shenron has slot 1 functionality, but depending on the event, it might not always be your guaranteed. Plus, turn 1, he gets the extra 40%. He doesn't always have that. With the rotating defense and damage reduction that you are giving with the Omega Shenron, it does make units more consistent defensively, but you still don't have that slot 1 defender. And so more often than not, you might have to put this guy in the slot 1. So a healthy amount of additional and dodge would be a good way to go. You could probably go more dodge, less additional. Either way, it's up to you. I put more additional just because he loses the additional super attack after 4 turns, and I would just like him to do more damage since he is one of your leading attack dogs in the GT boss category. So this is my split. Again, critical, not nearly as important. 20 additional, 18 dodge. Would have been nice to get a 20 here, 20-20. There's something wrong with me. I need to stop feeling this way. I like seeing numbers just even, the even distribution, you know what I'm saying? I like that. All right, let's move on. Pan. This unit is the ultimate support with that super attack, raising attack and defense, raising defense by 20% for 2 turns. You can launch multiple supers, giving extra defense for multiple turns, which is very good. You can foresee attacks. You do have damage reduction incoming when you've got all the right conditions. However, the unit is still not capable of protecting itself in every situation. And I think throwing as much dodge as possible would be the best way to make this a comfortable fit, not only in the slot 2, but in the slot 3. It just doesn't measure up. Maximum dodge, the rest additional. I don't care about doing damage with this support. So 22 dodge is what I can do. 10 additional, that is more than okay. Nova Shenron, one of the hardest hitting free-to-play LRs in the game. Actually, just one of the hardest hitting units in the game anyway. This unit can do a lot of damage, but unfortunately, there is not enough defensively where I would feel comfortable. Even with 24% damage reduction and the rotating 20% damage reduction, 140% defense that you can get from your GT bosses team led by the Omega, this guy's defense does not always work. So because of that, maximum dodge is 100% the best way to bring the character's full hit potential out here. You're going to have to take some time to farm out these equips from his event. It took me so many runs to the point where I actually ended up having 95 copies. Hold on, you guys need to see this. I have, wait, oh, you can't even check the growth, can you? Okay, here, let me show you guys something. I had to go through 95 copies of this guy before I could get that final equip. I don't think you guys nearly got as shafted as I did when it comes to that. But yeah, just know that the more dodge you give the unit, the more reliable he will be. He will do a good amount of damage in the however many few attacks he does. Dodge will just make him more consistently reliable on your main rotation. So full dodge, the rest additional. Critical is taken care of in the passive. Super Baby Vegeta 2, Super Baby 2, however you want to call it. This guy, I know there's a lot of controversy since this guy cannot be used on every single event, but the events that he can be run on, the unit is actually very, very good. Now, based on his passive, it is very conditional. If you want to fully get the max out of the passive, you have to be running with Inhuman Deeds, Corroded Body and Mind, or GT bosses on the team, which generally you would. And then you would also have to be fighting Pure Saiyans, Hybrid Saiyans, or GT heroes as the enemy, which might not always happen, but in general, I feel like this is a pretty realistic possibility. Considering all of that, you've got a ton of additional, and you've got critical, damage reduction, and dodge up to 40%. So this unit kind of has everything already. So in terms of the build, it really boils down to preference. The reason why I am not putting any critical on the unit is simply because I am getting it at least 20% from this guy. I'm going to be getting even more critical from the team aspect on the STR Omega Shenron, and I'm getting even more critical from the enemies that I'm fighting. Not to mention, when he goes into Giant Ape mode, he also has a medium chance for a critical. So because of all of that, I think I'm set in terms of potential on damage. I would rather then prioritize longevity, because while this guy does get stronger with every attack performed, with all of that plus 40% damage reduction and 40% dodge might not be enough. There's just certain events, certain fights from my own personal experience where I just don't think that that's going to be enough. So throwing more dodge could help. But again, I feel like this one is a little bit more flexible. You could honestly build him in whatever way you want. You could even go full critical just to get the most out of the attacks that you're launching. If you are launching enough attacks, greatly raising attack and defense, doing a ton of damage, and you're just building up your stats, you might just be able to tank your way through. For me, again, I would prefer defense, so that's why I'm going additionals and dodge, but you could totally go critical. It's whatever build you want. This is just how I choose to do it based on personal preference. 20 dodge, 15 additional. Nice round numbers. Super Saiyan 3 GT Goku Great Ape. This guy's got a 50% chance to dodge when his condition is met. He's got guard when his condition is met. 50% chance to dodge and guard, simply not enough. Not in this climate. So I've gone full dodge, and then the rest additional. He gets critical at 50% again with that same condition. So for me, that's enough. Also, when he goes into Giant Ape mode, he also has a 50% chance to... Is it 50% chance? Medium... Okay, I don't know why. For whatever reason, the new Dokkan Wiki doesn't show that, but Dokkan Info does. Let me pull it up here. So if we go to Giant Ape mode... high chance to crit. So he's got a 50% chance to crit both as this mode and regular mode. I don't need more than that. I would rather, if I'm running him, I just want him to stay alive. I'm going to be relying on my premier units to do the bulk of the damage. This guy would be adding extra while also providing some support, and I just want him to stay alive. So maximum dodge for my Great Ape GT Super Saiyan 3 Goku. STR Omega Shenron Super Easy A. This guy can do a massive amount of damage in the slot 3. He's got a guaranteed super attack. He has another potential super attack as well as your primary one. So that's 3 attacks, 40% critical, 40% damage reduction. He can debuff, he can support. He is all around a very effective unit that just fully renders out a rotation on GT bosses. The question is, how do you want to build him in the slot 3? Because I think putting him in the slot 3 is the best thing that you can do. So in order to put him in the slot 3, I think what you're mainly looking at is the damage output. And so for me, this one's kind of a weird build, but I am going for maximum dodge and then the rest critical. Or I guess you could just say maximum critical and maximum dodge. While he does have a 40% chance to do critical damage per attack, considering he's not building his stats at all with each super attack, he's not increasing his likelihood of tanking any sort of attack. He's going to have the same amount of stats regardless. I would rather just focus on how much damage he could output with each attack, whether it's 2 super attacks or 3 or 4, depending on your build. You could just get the most out of this slot 3 support that's on his way out. So with 24% chance to dodge, that would also supplement his 40% damage reduction in case one isn't enough, the other might bail you out. And then you can just give him even more consistency in terms of damage output. I've seen some people disagree with this, which is totally fine. This is a pretty wild build. So I would also say that if you do want to go for more additional, that would also work. He does have EX equips. And so for this one in particular, I'm not too fond of his overall set of equips. It does focus more on additionals and critical, which you could do because you at least give yourself an 8% chance of launching an additional attack, which could be a super, which could then result in 4 super attacks in the slot 3. So if you want to split it down the middle a little bit more to give him more additional, you could. I would just rather focus on the 2 things rather than 3, just to make those 2 things more likely for me. But again, it's a preference thing. So again, dodge and critical, main emphasis. If you want to throw some additionals in there, you can. For me, though, I would rather just put it back on this. I don't need him to launch a 3rd attack. It's not going to change his tankiness at all. It's not going to change his attack output at all in terms of stats. So I don't need it. Critical and dodge. STR Super Saiyan 4 Goku Super EZA, 70% chance to crit. You don't need any more crit. He's got 30% damage reduction. He can launch multiple attacks on any given turn. He has a high chance to counter. So how do you build him? Additionals and dodge. However much you want works. I am using all of his EX equips. So this is the build that I've come up with. 21 additional, 12 dodge. You could focus more so on dodge, but for me, on this guy in particular, I would rather just increase the amount of damage output that he's providing, because he is going to actually do a pretty good job defending you. And especially in the slot 1, slot 2, he gets that 200% extra defense when an attack is coming in, and then an additional 100% defense. He's more often than not going to be able to tank fairly well. There will be certain extreme cases where all of that built up defense and the 30% damage reduction won't be enough, and that's where the 12 dodge comes in. It's not a, it's not a 100% perfect build, but then again, nothing is, because RNG plays a major factor. I just think that I would rather build him this way, give him more of an emphasis on defense and combos to give him more stats, more tankiness, and then the occasional bailout like this. So 21-12, I think, is a pretty healthy split. No critical needed. 70% is more than enough. Oh boy, everybody hates this guy for no reason. I love this Vegeta. He's got a guaranteed critical when facing an extreme class enemy or when there's another GT hero ally on the team, so critical is not needed. So just like the Super Saiyan 4 Goku Super EZA, this guy, again, additionals and dodge. The Goku functions better if you have these 2 on the same rotation. The Goku would be the slot 1, this guy would be the slot 2, because in the slots 2 or 3, he gets the extra stats. So keeping that in mind, I gave this guy a little bit more additional, just so he has more likely of a chance to launch another attack, do more damage, all the while keeping the 30% damage reduction, all the combos, and the 50% chance to counter. These 2 guys, you could focus more dodge, but I just think that it would be betraying the essence of their abilities. They want to be comboing. They want to be building up their stats. They're also supporting, and they're potentially countering. I just think that that's fine. I don't need to go too crazy. I know it's weird, especially after all the dodge you've been seeing on my other builds, but I think that this is ultimately the best way to bring the most out of the unit, not just factoring in dodge alone. 26 and 12. 26 and 12. Pan is a crazy support. After the unit attacks, the unit gets dodge and damage reduction, and dodge and damage reduction when all allies attacking the same turn are the respective categories. This unit has very good defensive capabilities after the fact, but there is still an inherent risk of being hit before attacking, AoEs, being locked in a particular rotation. So because of all of that, I think dodge is the most important thing for the unit. Also, if your health is at certain levels, you might be missing out on even more defense, even more stats, making it even more important to have the dodge. So I have gone maximum dodge, and then it's kind of weird that I've split it up this way, but these are merely afterthoughts. I focused on the dodge, and I gave her 20 dodge. I threw in additionals because her super attack does raise allies attack by 25% for 2 turns. So if you could launch potentially multiple supers, that's good. The critical is merely just in there because of my dual skill orbs having some critical. She's not going to do a ton of damage. She will provide serviceable damage, but it's nothing game changing. I don't even think it's worth prioritizing. With all of the passive firing, like if you launch an attack in the slot 2 or 3 and you've met all of these conditions, you've got a 70% chance to dodge, which is good. So that is something to consider, but considering that one of the 2 passives at the bottom here, okay, I'm kind of blocking it. Considering part of the passive down here is contingent on attacking, that does lessen the consistency in that, AoE or locked in the slot 1 type situation. So throwing more dodge would just make her more consistent. So that's why I did maximum dodge. Don't worry about critical. She doesn't do that much, but if you really want to, you could. I was kind of bummed out by this guy, the STR Hanky Trunks. I was expecting more out of him, but he was not able to measure up defensively in certain situations that I was expecting that he would. Regardless, I think the best way to keep him as tanky as possible is to prioritize additional. He will never be a slot 1. He will probably never be a slot 2. He will mainly be a slot 3. He can get up to 30%, actually 60% critical, 60% damage reduction. So critical is not needed. It would be all about additionals and dodge. And I went for more additional just so he is more likely to potentially launch a second super because he's greatly raising attack and defense. Giving extra stats to a unit with 60% damage reduction would make them all the more tanky. You could go more dodge and make him less reliant on the additional, but because he has no chance for an additional anywhere in his passive, I think putting more additional in the hit potential build would be better. But again, he is not going to be a rotation leading unit. So max additional and then the rest dodge. No critical needed. The biggest surprise among the GT heroes sub EZA is the Super Saiyan 3 Goku GT. This guy is maximum dodge, the rest additional. He's got a 50% chance to critical when all GT heroes are present. That's enough for me. Also, when your health is below 50% or less, or if you're facing a GT boss enemy, you've got guaranteed critical. Ideally, you want to be running this guy only in situations where you are fighting a GT boss enemy, because this guy needs his guard. With guard and 50% damage reduction, all the while multiplicatively raising his stats by 50% over 3 turns, he's got insane combo power. He can actually resist some of the craziest damage out there. He surprised me a ton in my showcase with how resilient he was and how capable he was able to tank in the slot 1, in the slot 2, in the slot 3. So eliminating critical from the hit potential build at all makes this so much easier. It's just any combination of additionals and dodge. I went more dodge simply because sometimes he could get stunned or sealed. If he were to get stunned or sealed, it absolutely kills his momentum. Part of his tankiness doesn't just come from the 50% damage reduction and the guarding, it also comes from the ability to launch 3-4 supers any given turn. And so if a seal or a stun were to disrupt that, this unit suddenly becomes a major anchor, a major burden on your rotation. So maximum dodge, the rest additional, is the best way to keep this guy moving forward and keeping him on that insane pace. Very good unit. TEQ Syn Shenron, he's got additional, he's got critical, he's got damage reduction. The damage reduction wears off after the first turn. After that, you have to be picking up 7 orbs, actually 6 orbs, to fully max out his critical and his additional. That just leaves dodge. Give him full dodge, and that will round out the unit and make him all the more complete. More often than not, he will have to be your slot 1 defender. So with 20 or 25 dodge and maybe 80% damage reduction, 90 or 100 depending on your team, this guy is going to be a more secure slot 1. Not always, but the more dodge you give, the more consistent you will be. That's why I just completely disregarded additionals and critical, and I've only got 20. I wish I could do more, but this is all I've got. LR Legion of Shadow Dragons. I was very surprised when checking out this character in the showcase how strong this unit can be. The damage potential is through the roof. You are getting a ton of damage from just a single attack with this guy. I found myself very easily able to get the 24 key, so 77% crit chance eliminates any necessity for additional crit. I think it's all about dodge and additional. Dodge, because this unit, while it is incredibly capable of doing a ton of damage, you're only looking at 49% damage reduction. You want to generally have 2 means of defending yourself: damage reduction and guard, damage reduction and dodge, or guard and dodge. Since this unit only has one of the 3, giving ample amount of the other would be good. So maximum dodge would be good. Yeah, you're missing out on potentially a second super where you could do more damage, but since this guy is also a support, it's not going to be the only unit on the rotation that is going to be doing damage. Other guys can also contribute. So I think prioritizing defense and longevity is a better way to make use of the character. Occasionally, I don't know why, but during my showcases, I barely got the additionals. Even though I've got this build right here, 32% chance, I barely got the additionals, but he was dodging quite a bit. So I think that focusing on the additionals or the dodge is good, but putting one into... I think focusing more on dodge is ultimately better, but it's all based on preference. If you want to focus more on additional, feel free. This guy can hit incredibly hard and can still tank fairly well, but there are going to be certain parts of fights where you're going to be a little surprised. But yeah, additionals and dodge. Max dodge, though. Probably one of my hottest takes for the INT Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. I am going maximum dodge and the rest additional. I don't think there's any debate about the need for critical, because he's got a guaranteed critical after receiving or dodging 4 attacks. So you do not need critical whatsoever. The reason why I went for maximum dodge first was, number 1, because I knew that I would be able to match that in terms of the symmetrical build. But number 2, it's more about strategizing around the ability to counter. On the GT boss team, there are not too many slot 1 anchor units. Even the AGL Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta can potentially be susceptible to some nasty damage. But when factoring in the fact that this unit has a 10-turn window for a 70% chance to counter any super attack, it's not any one type of super, it's any super attack in general, I think that that can actually be a strategy that's very useful. If you have an attack happening in slot 1 and you just don't want to get hit, you don't want to get sealed, you don't want to get stunned, you could throw this guy intermittently into the slot 1 to potentially counter that. So if you supplement a unit that is meant to counter an attack with dodge, it just gives you a little bit more consistency in terms of getting out of that rotation unscathed. If the counter were to fail, a dodge could bail you out, or vice versa. Also, if there are other attacks coming in, the dodge could also help you. Yes, in the slot 1, this unit is far more susceptible to damage because you're missing out on all of this. But when you factor in slot 1, turn 1, 40% extra damage reduction, that is probably going to be the main place where this strategy will be most effective. But then in general, I think throwing more dodge on a unit that is entirely reliant on supering would be good, because that way a seal is less likely to screw you over, or a stun is less likely to screw you over. And the only reason, again, I went for full dodge is because I knew that I could match it with ample supply of skill orbs. I am not using his EX skill orbs. I'm specifically not a fan of those because some of them, while they are good, they're not as good as some of my other ones. So I think the concept still applies, but it's probably just not going to be as fancy of a build as mine. Also, I am using those level 7 equips that we got from the Team Cooperation Perfect Battle thing. So that's why I'm able to do the 2020 split. But yeah, for me, it's all about max additional, and then the rest, I always get this mixed up. Max dodge, the rest additional. 2020, I like it. And lastly, we've got one of the best units in the game, the LR Trunks and Vegeta, arguably the best unit in the game. This guy can stack, this guy has guard, this guy has damage reduction, this guy has critical, this guy has everything. So what do you do to give a unit that has everything? You give the unit dodge. Since this guy is going to be your anchor every single time, no questions asked, the worst thing that could happen is that the unit gets sealed or stunned, preventing the ability to stack permanently, and also preventing the ability from the unit launching a 5% team support every single time. I firsthand experienced this during the boss rush for the Legion of Shadow Dragons. I think the first 3 or 4 fights, every single time this dude got stunned or sealed. Even though I gave the unit maximum dodge, I still got hit by all of those, and I was not able to stack. And it was incredibly annoying, and it was incredibly troublesome. So I think the best thing you could possibly do is to focus everything you can on dodge, and then put the rest into either additionals or critical. I don't think critical is needed because you can get up to 50% chance for critical. That's enough for me, but some people like more, so you can. Does he have any critical boosting links? He does have Dismal Future. That does add a little bit more. So if you are running primarily Future Saga with the guy, you are getting a little bit more in that regard. So there is that to consider. But the more dodge, the better. There will be less chance for the entire rotation to suffer from this unit's inability to launch that stacking super and give everybody 5%. I have not yet run the Festival of Battles with the unit, but I can guarantee you this guy is going to be an absolute, it's going to be an absolute clinic how dominant this unit is going to be, and dodge is going to make that so much more likely. Easy build. So there you go. That is the full breakdown for all of my hidden potential builds for all of these units. Like I said, some of you guys might disagree with some of my builds since I do prioritize dodge a lot, but that's just where we are in Dokkan today. I am not just factoring in the unit's core abilities, but I am also considering the newer events that are available. So if you are someone who is still working on the older events, some of these characters might not need as much dodge. There are, of course, events where dodge is completely disabled. And if you're finding yourself doing those events more often, you might find that, you know, all that extra dodge is being wasted. But that just speaks to how there is still variety in how you can build these characters. If you want to build the unit a different way because it suits your playstyle more, by all means. When I started playing this game, for about 3 to 4 years, I didn't care about dodge whatsoever. I was all about additionals and criticals, additionals and criticals. And then over time, I started to understand the benefits in having the dodge. And I started to learn that it's not just about having one unit with dodge, but having multiple. Because if an entire rotation has a significant amount of dodge, then AoEs are suddenly far less of an issue. Or sealing super attacks are far less of an issue. So it really just depends on how you like to play. So hopefully you guys understand my builds. If you disagree, you can always make some adjustments here and there. Like I said with the Omega Shenron, since I focus on critical and dodge, if you want to throw some additionals in there, you could, and you could lessen the amount of emphasis on the critical or the dodge since you've already got critical in here. It really just depends on who you are and how you like to play. But if you guys want to check out more of these builds, you can check out my Discord server. Link is in the description down below. The Toons Hidden Potential Guide section has you covered. And if you need more, just ask. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like down below. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on my hidden potential builds. Do you agree or disagree with anyone in particular? I think most of you will probably have, if anything, some disagreement with maybe the Gogeta, the INT Gogeta, and maybe the STR Omega. But let me know what you guys think. Which ones do you like? Which ones do you not like? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments down below. Also, be sure to subscribe for more content in the future. Click the notification bell so that you'll let YouTube know you want to see more of my stuff. Do it. Thanks again. Stay tuned and Arjabert to Dokkan responsibly.